All right. Welcome, Randy, to the show. How are you, Randy?
Excellent. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for accepting the invitation. I think that's the most important part, right?
My pleasure.
So,
My pleasure.
so Randy, let's get right into it. Let's start from the basics. Where are you originally from?
So I grew up in Bergenfield, New Jersey, and when I was younger, they had a really good debate team, and so that's how I kind of got introduced to debate at Bergenfield High School. If any of you guys know Abdul Barate, he was on my debate team. Also, I graduated with him. But yeah, back in the day, back in the '90s, Bergenfield High School had a pretty fierce debate program. But that's where I'm originally from, Bergenfield. It's right by the George Washington Bridge, so it's like up in Bergen County, close to northern Manhattan. But yeah, that's where I grew up. So I've been in Jersey pretty much my whole life, although I spent 2 years in upstate New York for a little while. But for the most part, I'm a New Jersey guy.
No, nice. I'm familiar with the Bergen County area. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, I lived in Teaneck a little while, but I did live. My wife and we lived in Newark for 7 or 8 years before we moved kind of out to the sticks now. But yeah, no, I spent my childhood in Bergenfield, but
Gotcha.
most of my adult life has been either between. I mean, most of my time is spent in Newark, honestly. So spent most of my adult life in Newark.
I totally understand. I went to Ramapo, so in Mawa. I know
There you go.
What it could be like in the sticks of Bergen County. But
good hip hop in Ramapo back in the day.
Oh yeah, no, in my day too. It was good. So tell us, what made you start debate in the first place?
It's not a great story, but basically, I joined actually my freshman year because my friends did, and I originally wanted to play football, and I'm still a big sports fan. I've always been a big sports fan, but I remember going to the first football team workout as a freshman and just feeling very uncomfortable with the kind of vibe that was going on. This kind of hyper competitive, just the atmosphere inside the gym and everything. I just didn't, it wasn't me. And I knew that some of my friends were joining the debate team. I really didn't know much about it. But I remember, going to my first tournament and getting really into it. And, Mr. Nazario actually judged me my first round ever. And he's now like the chief of staff of Newark Public Schools, but he actually coached me for a while when I was in high school also. But yeah, I honestly joined because my friends joined, and I got at some point bit by the bug and ended up going to debate camp. And then I remember feeling like it was after my sophomore year when I came back in the beginning of my junior year, having gone to debate camp that summer, that I feel like the world of debate started to open up, and I actually like understood what I was doing and kind of knew what I was doing a little bit better. But initially getting into it, nothing really drew me in other than the fact that I had a couple of friends who wanted to join the team, and I really didn't know much about it, honestly. It wasn't really publicized in my school very much, but it was the best decision I ever made. And I can say that pretty unequivocally because it definitely transformed my life, and it opened up all these opportunities for me. And, I thought for sure I was going to become a lawyer after college, and I just kind of stayed in the debate community, and I continued to judge and help out with Bergenfield a little bit. And while I was in college, Mr. Ferrand approached me and he said, if you want, once you graduate, we'll find a spot for you if you want to coach. And man, that was 17 years ago now. So
Wow.
yeah, so I've been teaching at Science Park High School for since 2004, and I coached full time from 2004 until my son was born in 2013. So I did almost 10 full years as the policy debate coach at Science Park. And it was, it forever transformed me being a debater and being a debate coach and just being in the community. And it's been a tremendous experience, especially the relationships that you develop coaching students and traveling with them and kind of getting this just intimate experience of going out to restaurants with them and even just seeing other parts of the country and how different it can be. I mean, I don't know if it's still entirely the same, but I just remember like traveling to Emory and going to Atlanta, and we were always a very mixed ethnicity group. And so we would walk into these places and a lot of the country is very segregated. It would be like, all the black people were on this side of the restaurant and everybody would be like staring at us that we were this mixed group. And it was those kinds of experiences that were just transformative and make those bonds for lasting relationships. So, I have really tight relationships with a lot of my former debaters, and that's, been just a tremendous experience. So I guess I went a little off the rails answering that question.
No,
But yeah,
not at all.
I initially got started just because my friends were doing it. It was not like a great reason, but I'm very, very thankful that I did.
Not at all. No, that's fine. I mean, I when you said that, I actually thought, question, did you go to nationals in 2010?
Did I go to nationals? Probably. I forget where it was. That's how I remember
Missouri.
different nationals. Where was it?
Missouri that year.
It was where?
City, Missouri, I think.
Missouri. Yeah, we went to Kansas City. That was Devon and Kyla. We went.
That's what I remember. Now I remember you. I was there.
Okay. Oh, did you come to the Truman Presidential Library with us and everything? I know we went on the little trip.
I think I did. I might have. I was the one sole speech student who qualified for nationals that year.
Did you go to Central?
I went to Shabazz.
You went to Shabazz. Oh, okay.
I was with Miss Felicia Bateman. And yeah, I was the one sole child. And I shared the room. I shared the hotel with Devon.
Awesome. Yeah, Kansas City. Okay.
So I was like, wait a minute. I think this name sounds familiar, but I couldn't. It's been so long. I was like, I'm not quite sure if this is the person I think this is. But it is you.
It is. Yes.
That's really cool. So I'm guessing now. Well, no, actually, no. I take that back. It's not fair to guess. I will ask you. When were you first introduced to Newark Debate Academy?
Well, it's funny because to me, it's the Jersey Urban Debate League. That's what it was called when I was heavily involved with it. So I guess I wasn't fully aware of how extensive the organization was until I started working at Science in 2004. And at that point, it was just starting to grow a little bit where, kind of the epicenter of debate in Newark was Science High School. Mm-hmm. But University High School had a team. And originally, they actually, I was supposed to get hired with Mr. Leon at University High School. And a couple of circumstances made it so that the person they wanted to hire for the coach at Science High School wasn't, he couldn't get his New Jersey certificate. And so they put me in that position. And I'm very thankful for that because I've been at Science ever since. But it was right around that time when the Jersey Urban Debate League was just starting to grow and spread from various schools in Newark to actually recruiting people from East Orange and Orange, and had like these kind of local tournaments, which gave a lot of opportunities to younger students and novices to compete. And then I don't even remember what year they started middle grade debate, but I was there when they first started the whole middle grade competition, the middle grade league, which obviously has kind of taken on a life of its own, as its own thing now. And I guess it was just growing. And I don't even remember what year they changed it to New York Debate Academy. I had probably just stopped coaching at that point. Mm-hmm. But it became, bigger and bigger. It grew into a really competitive league. And it's awesome to have opportunities for students who are not selling their souls to debate, because some of the kids who are going to the national tournaments just have to devote so much of their time and energy to it. It's not realistic for everybody, and especially for some of the freshmen and sophomores. Having those local tournaments was just such a great opportunity for kids that maybe wouldn't get a chance to compete at the more national tournaments, to get a chance to debate and to do the award ceremony and just have, you know, that kind of experience and you know, have the fun of competition in addition to the benefits of learning debate. So you know, I'm really proud of the Juddle as I knew it, and how much it grew and how professional it became, and now just how much of a kind of you know, ingrained part of Newark education it's become. You know, I'm super excited that kids get a chance to compete in middle school and then go on to there are a bunch of different high school programs that are really formidable now.
Yes, yes. No, it really has. From the outside, looking at it, it really has shaped into this beautiful product. From what I'm seeing,
And then
that
actually, one of the things I forgot to mention was when they started a college team at Rutgers Newark, and now it's become like
oh
this
yeah,
whole debate pipeline where we've had, you know, Devon won a national championship with Rutgers Newark, and that's just amazing because debate at the college level is super intense, and I don't think anybody goes through that without gaining skills that are incredibly valuable in the competitive marketplace. And even beyond that value, there's just the incredible value of being able to find your own voice. You know, I feel like so many of the high school students I work with are so quick to try to parrot somebody else's words. You know, even in their writing, they want to copy and paste, or they want to read the summary of the summary.
hmm
And debate forces you into that very contemplative kind of deep reading and kind of crafting your own language to articulate things. And you even have to do it on the spot in rebuttal speeches and stuff. So those skills are invaluable in just like finding yourself and finding your voice and who you truly are and shaping your values and those kinds of things, as well as giving you that kind of professional level ability to have really high level critical literacy, read advanced kinds of texts, break them down and understand them, and then be able to articulate with sophisticated vocabulary, complicated concepts. I mean, to me, that's an invaluable skill. And it's one of the reasons why I still love teaching and I still love being involved in just, you know, anything in the debate orbit, whether it's social studies instruction or tutoring or helping out with debate tournaments or coaching sometimes. You know, I'm very, very passionate about it.
So, Randy, tell our viewers, you know, give us a little insight. What would you say is one of your fondest memories of debate as a student and then as a coach?
This is tough. You know, it's tough because I had a lot of great moments of competitive success, and some of those were really unforgettable. In fact, you know, I mean, fondest memories. You know, I lost in the finals of Harvard because I got like bronchitis. I got really sick, and that was frustrating. But I was really proud to get to the finals at Harvard. I got to quarters at MBA. I got a speaker award at TOCs, and I got recruited by like the University of Kentucky and by Dallas Perkins, who was the coach at Harvard at the time. And those were all really, really fond memories. But honestly, thinking back on it, it was probably getting housed with other debaters, and this is something that, you know, maybe some Newark debaters can identify with, going to a tournament and staying in the hotel. In Bergenfield, we used to get housed, so we'd go to the tournament and we'd stay at some parent's house. And I remember this one time being a freshman, and like all of the debaters from Bergenfield High School, we all watched like Candyman late at night on like the Friday night of a tournament. And then we had this, like, everybody was daring each other to go say Candyman 3 times in the mirror. If you've never seen Candyman, it's like one of the classic horror movies.
Oh, you know, of course.
But it was little experiences like that, like being housed with the kids or having the long car rides to to different tournaments. We drove to TOCs, so it was like, you know, a 4-hour car trip out to Kentucky or something, or driving to Emory, driving to Lexington, and always, you know, having like just jokes and fun little games that we would play on the bus, and I, you know, those are the kinds of things that I really remember, were just those experiences with the other students, and those experiences kind of being in a community. So while I remember the kind of competitive success and some of those things I was really proud of, and certainly it was a lot of fun. I won 2 tournaments my senior year. I won the Lakeland tournament, and I won this tournament at Edison High School in Virginia, which I don't think has a debate program anymore. And those were really, really, pretty amazing to like win first place. But honestly, like the things that I remember most would be, getting dared to go say Candyman in the mirror 3 times. It was this kind of community experiences, especially being housed with other students. So the bonds that you build in the debate squad are just really, really special. And so that's probably my fondest memory. And as a coach, I'd probably say the same thing. Honestly, we had one, and Evie remembers this, I'm sure. So we went to the debate tournament at Scranton one year, and we stayed in a tournament recommended hotel. It was the Clarion Hotel. And we all got eaten by bed bugs. And we had to take, like Devon had an allergic reaction. Evie had this really bad allergic reaction. We had to take her to the hospital. My wife actually like took her to the hospital, and, we had pictures and jokes about it afterward. My wife had some really snarky nicknames for some of the kids after their, faces blew up getting eaten by bed bugs. Silly experiences like that, which at the time were like terrifying and stressful. I'm like, oh my God, we're having a health crisis. But looking at it in retrospect, you can laugh about it. And some of the most special bonds were built in those kind of experiences.
Sorry, Randy, can you pause 1 second? I'm sorry, pause,
Sure.
Evie. There's a lot of outside noise. Hold on, let me go.
All right. So yeah, I was thinking about, the fondest memories as a coach, and definitely a lot of those kind of bonding experiences of just going to restaurants with students, just going out to dinner and talking about debates was great. And I do remember, some moments of real competitive success too, like when I remember my students broke at Bronx Science, and it was really exciting for them. And we got to go to nationals a bunch of times. We got pretty far in the NAUDL nationals a couple of times, and so I was proud of those successes. But honestly, more than that, I'm just I feel lucky to have known so many of the kids that I knew through coaching, and those are my fondest memories, is thinking back on those relationships that I developed with some of the people that I coached. And still to this day, I have a really strong fondness for so many of my former debaters, and there's just a kind of love and bond there that is special. And I've been teaching in the classroom for a long time, and it's just a different kind of bond that you develop when you're going on these trips and going out to dinner, and almost, kind of just developing that almost, the relationship outside of the professional realm. So there's a professional relationship that you always have, but then there's always a kind of personal relationship that I think is important for education in general. But it's just so much stronger when you're doing it in the context of debate and traveling with students. So, maybe it's a cop out of an answer, but my fondest memories as coaches are just of those kind of moments of sharing, those experiences with kids, like when we're all getting eaten by bed bugs and have to go to the hospital. Terrifying at the time, but in retrospect, we can have a laugh about it. And it was, a special kind of bond that you get from those kind of experiences.
I couldn't even, I couldn't even imagine, like as a student going through that, as a coach going through that. I really couldn't go imagine. I've been coaching myself for 4 years now, at least as a head coach, and starting a program. And so there's been so many trials and tribulations, triumphs and disasters, right? And I have to agree. Like, I think some people don't realize how connected and close we are with the students, because we spend so much time with the students. We are with them, however you do practice, right? Every day or every other day, right? After school for however many hours. And then we spend Saturdays and sometimes the whole weekend. We travel. They are close. We are very close, closer maybe than arguably probably the teachers, the rest of the staff in the building, right? I think we know our students better than they do at this point. And it requires a lot. It really does require a lot. It does take patience and things of that nature. And so I want to ask you, as a young coach to someone who's coached longer than I have, what what would you say has been the most challenging part of being a coach?
It's a great question. In policy debate, I found that I struggled to balance the preparation of arguments with the speaking practice.
Mm,
Um, so I felt like, in retrospect, I spent too much of my time focused on preparing arguments and prepping for, it just to be a mediocre policy debater. There's just like so many arguments that you have to be ready for. And then even at certain tournaments, we were like super ready for just this wide range of different argumentation. And then suddenly we hear like a Buddhist critique and the kids are all like, oh my God, we never wrote a block to that. And so I felt like I was always behind the eight ball and chasing to be prepared for this wide range of arguments, which is in some way why, debating critique and debating the kind of performance style debate can help offset some of that burden of preparation, because you can just undercut a lot of the kind of traditional policy arguments. But I always felt like I never got enough time to do practice rounds and practice speeches and rebuttal redos and the kind of emphasis on speaking. So that was a real challenge. And then, of course, partnership drama was always challenging, whether it was, PF debaters or policy debaters, making the partnerships work. Occasionally you'd get a partnership that was just seamless and they worked together great. But there was usually, those four stages. What is it like? Forming, storming, norming, performing, I think is the idea. Like when you're coming together, you're going to have some conflicts over how to kind of standardize sharing responsibilities and, what kind of arguments you like. And there's always a little bit of conflict over that. And then if those things aren't kind of perceived as being fair by both partners, it can go south pretty fast, especially if, there's a lot, you go to a tournament and you just lose your first three debates and then you got one partner blaming the other potentially. So just trying to manage the kind of interpersonal relationships can be tricky sometimes. And I always found that difficult to balance. And I also found it difficult to just balance the argument prep with the speaking practice. And, one of the things, like Mr. Alston was always there staying till 7:30, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And, I usually would leave at like 5:36. So, and then even that, once my wife got pregnant and we were having a child, I just realized that there was no way I was going to be able to sustain quality coaching, being able to do rebuttal redos and all these kinds of things, because it just does, it's such a huge time commitment. So, and that, I think that was kind of the biggest challenge, was just budgeting time. And so often I feel like I would have an idea of how practice was going to go, and for one reason or another, it didn't work out that way. Somebody got, called into an after school meeting somewhere else and showed up late, or someone came but their case wasn't ready, and like all the times that we would try to prepare to do a practice round, there were often hiccups that would get in the way. And so I guess as advice for a younger coach, I mean, kind of trying to structure practice so that your cases have to be absolutely ready by this day, and you're having a practice round on this day, and there's no backtracking on that. I felt like once I started to give on, oh, we're not ready to do a practice debate today, all right, well, let's go back to the argument preparation stage. Once you kind of let that slide a little bit, it started happening way too frequently. And I feel like, because even some of the texts that you have to kind of be the interlocutor for the student on are so complex that it can take, I remember spending an hour and a half like talking about one card, for a couple of kids, and it can just take such a long time to really be prepared. But I think that ultimately, what I've realized is that most students learn by doing. And if you spend too much time kind of preparing the arguments and not enough time in practice rounds and practicing speaking, that they're shortchanged a little bit in being prepared for especially some of the most competitive tournaments. So I always found that to be a challenge, just kind of striking a balance between all those things.
All right. Okay. So you started giving some advice. So I'm gonna, ask you for a little bit more for our people out there, our beautiful viewers. Do you have any advice for coaches just any coaches who are looking to get started, right? To just start doing what you've already, done?
It's a great question. I think we try to advertise in a couple of different ways. So there's recruitment can be sold as, do you want to be an unbeatable at argument? You want to be able to argue persuasively with your parents. Do you want to be able to advocate for causes with, powerful people? This is a step towards becoming empowered. Do you want to find your voice? Do you crave to learn what's going on in the world, global events, global affairs, more so than you do in kind of your normal classes? And then there's also the selling point of the kind of possibilities academically. So one of the things that I know that the Newark Debate Academy, Juddle as I knew it, was always trying to kind of advertise was that there were marked measurable improvements for students academically when the more rounds they spent in debate. And this was true of special needs students in addition to kind of regular ed students. That we had special needs students who were struggling academically, and when they got bit by the bug of debate, whether it was the competitiveness or just the kind of, it's like, in a sense, it's like, you feel like you're in the ground floor of school and you've got all these levels to climb. And then when you enter the world of debate, it's like you're looking out on the world from the penthouse view. It's like, oh, wow, this is the way that, the higher ups, the people with Ivy League educations actually talk about the world. These are the kinds of things they read. These are the kinds of issues that they're dealing with. And now I get to deal with that. And everybody has to listen to me. I have like a 5-minute speech or an 8-minute speech where nobody can interrupt me, and that's a pretty amazing thing. And I would just say that there are, a lot of academic ways that you could try to sell the program, so that it can improve, scores on tests. And also there are multiple colleges that recruit for debaters. And that was often, at Science High School, we had a lot of students who were kind of on a college prep track. So that was a big selling point as well. But it's also fun, don't short sell how much fun it can be. And because it's competitive, but it's also kind of academic combat, and it's about wit and kind of the gift of gab. It's almost like, it has some of those same fun qualities as like, MC battles or something, where you're using your articulation and your language to compete against somebody. And winning is fun, but losing can also be a rewarding experience as well. I always felt like coaching the kids after a loss was a really, really important thing. Learning how to lose, learning how to grow from your losses, learning to understand that sometimes it's just not fair. Sometimes like you may have won that debate in a kind of objective way, but for some reason you lost the ballot. And that's kind of, like life is like that sometimes, where you do everything right and you still have an unfair outcome. And so how to advertise, I think, there's the kind of like advertising of empowerment. This is going to empower you in multiple ways. You find your voice, you can advocate for change, you can become a leader. And then you can also fight with your parents more effectively. You can question your teachers and be more confident about those kinds of things. And then there's the kind of academic ways of trying to sell a program too, where there are measurable ways in which debate helps students feel more confident in school, get better at kind of academic skills, improve their critical literacy, and become empowered that way.
Okay. So answer me this. I'm of course, I'm a speech person. I have no idea of, I have a little bit of an idea of what happens with debate, obviously now, but I never understood it back then. But can you can you talk a little bit about how managing how to manage team dynamics when it comes to pairing partners? Because I've seen the whole like, I don't like this partner, or we had a great chemistry, over here, or it was that whole thing. I've heard the drama, but I never understood what the drama was about, or why it works so well. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
There's no kind of generic way of approaching partnerships. It really is kind of a case by case basis to some extent. I think that sometimes really good friends make really good partners, and sometimes that can be an avenue towards disaster. But I think that, telling the students that resilience and persistence is important with partnerships, that you have to give it a chance, and if somebody makes a mistake, uh, it's an opportunity to grow from that. But after a few times and people don't trust each other anymore, then maybe you have to change up the partnerships. Or sometimes, maybe just having students, I mean, in policy debate, there's a huge emphasis on preparation. There's one topic for the whole year, and there's just like hundreds of arguments that you kind of have to be ready for.
Mm.
And that can be overwhelming for some students. And you might have one student that's really into it and another student who's kind of like, I got a bunch of AP classes, or I'm trying to juggle all these other things, and I'm just not keeping up at the level of preparation of the other partner. Well, sometimes maybe then you have to switch events. Maybe somebody should be debating LD, or somebody should be into PF, where there's still a preparation emphasis, but you can kind of like write your cases the week before a tournament and still be relatively competitive. Whereas in policy debate, usually that doesn't work. So there's no blanket answer for that. There's no good general answer. It really is a kind of case by case basis in managing partner dynamics. But it helps to be able to kind of, it's often an opportunity for kind of counseling, for just kind of a mindfulness, psychological counseling. Are you being fair in your reactions to this person? Obviously, you both care a lot, and so the emotions can run high. Can we take a step backward and try to think about this as an objective third party observer? Can we kind of have mediation? Can we have like all right, we're going to take some time. I want you to say what you have to say. I want you to say what you have to say. And you can kind of practice those conflict resolution skills.
Mm.
And so actually partnership drama can be a really good teachable moment, an opportunity to kind of teach students, what it takes to get along with other people, because it is a skill. It's not like, yeah, I guess some people are kind of born with more social graces than others, but it's really learned kind of skills. And being authentically interested in what your partner has to say is an important kind of starting point. But that's not something that comes easily. It takes practice, and it takes kind of, often it takes mistakes to learn that, maybe I should have had a different attitude about this. Maybe if I had been a little bit more forgiving, maybe if I hadn't been such a jerk to my partner, it would have worked out a little bit better. So there is an opportunity of kind of counseling. I guess the one general piece of advice that I heard from, I don't even remember the coach's name, but it was a pretty prominent national coach way back in the day. But his mantra was, be a mentor, not a tour mentor. So if you try to, just try to give gentle guidance, as opposed to, yelling and screaming and being on top of people, you're probably going to have more success, whether that's with partnership dynamics or with individual success. So that was, one of the kind of general mantras about coaching that I always try to remember. I don't want to torment students and make them feel a whole lot of pressure. There's a degree of that that's important, but I think if you go too far in that direction, students might end up hating it. I've seen even like orchestra teachers who are really, really hard on their students, and the orchestra sounds great in the concert, but after the concert, the kid never wants to pick up the instrument again. So there's a bit of a balance there too. But if you try to mentor students instead of get them to win or be super, super competitive, I always thought that that's a little bit of a better approach, and it tends to facilitate more positive partnership dynamics also.
Okay, I agree. I agree definitely. That level of push, but that balance in that push is what's really important, because that keeps the kids coming back for more, honestly, the way I've seen it. And how you've mentioned, it definitely does keep the kids engaged and want to still do this, want to connect with someone else, maybe bring them along on the team, and then it just, domino effect right out. So tell me, how do you keep varsity members engaged while not leaving the novices, behind during practices? I know it's hard to juggle, as I'm hearing there's so much that goes with policy debate. But how do you keep that engagement?
Yeah, so it's definitely a tricky balance. And I remember sometimes when we had a really small squad that was traveling a lot and super competitive, where you're focusing just on a few kids, you're kind of getting those national accolades. But then you start hearing like, well, your squad's not big enough, and we've got the school's spending a lot of money on this program, and we can't just have it reach only 4 or 5 kids. So you have to grow your numbers and recruit more novices and everything. There was always kind of a tough balance to strike there. But I think, the tried and true methods that I've heard and I've tried are typically to, you can organize practice debates where the varsity members are judging, and you can actually, a lot of teams will assign one varsity debater as a coach for one novice team. So they'll actually sometimes travel to the novice and JV tournaments, and they're like the personal coach for one of the particular teams on your squad. So a lot of teams do it that way, where you have a varsity member and they're responsible for coaching like one novice team. And then other ways is that you can have students kind of, hopefully if you have the physical space, or now I guess in this case you could have breakout rooms and over the digital space. But you could have varsity members kind of competing or prepping in a separate room while you're working with the novices in a different room. Or sometimes you have the varsity kids compete and have the novices tag along or look over their shoulders and kind of see how it's done. Watching varsity debates is tricky because some novices are going to see it and see, like in policy debate with the speed reading, some kids will see it and be like, whoa, cool, I want to do that. And they get all into it. And other kids are like, this is weird and I don't like it. So it's sometimes tricky, but I tend to think that if a novice is going to see, a varsity debate and get weirded out by it or not like it, then they're probably not going to stick with you too long anyway. So having the young kids watch the older kids is often helpful too. But there are a number of ways of organizing it. And I remember, like at some of the big debate teams like Lexington, the novices were responsible for a certain amount of research, but instead of all submitting it to the head coach, they'd have to run it through like the varsity debaters first, because the head coach couldn't possibly like manage all, if you have a big squad like Lexington had, where there are 15 novice teams, or 20 novice teams, you're obviously not going to read every card that every kid is cutting. So you have a kind of filter process where it goes through the JV and varsity members as well. So you can assign your older students a lot of responsibilities for the novices. But I would say that, if you're going to do that kind of independent, like student run, student driven coaching, you have to balance that as well with the coach being present. I think sometimes novices feel like they're being neglected if they don't get any attention from the head coach, if they're just getting like teaching I've heard a lot of young kids be like, the coach is never around for us. He doesn't show any time for us because he's only works with the varsity kids. And then all we get is like, this varsity kid just gives us their files. And so there's often that attitude. So you have to kind of strike that balance again. We're talking about striking a balance, but between kind of letting the students run the team and also being present as a head coach for guidance and to answer questions. And so I would say that if you're going to structure a week of practice, if you're going to have, a couple of sessions where the varsity members are coaching the novice or they're all working kind of independently, you want to at least have 1 or 2 days where there's more of a kind of head coach driven instruction. There's a head coach driven session, or you're at least providing a forum where they can talk to you directly and get some coaching from you directly, because it's surely the case that some of the younger debaters who don't get a lot of time with the head coach will feel neglected and kind of sometimes hold resentment about that, or they'll go and complain to other people about it, and that can cause drama needlessly. So I think you can structure things to try to strike those balances. Like if you structure a week of practice and you have some time devoted to these activities and some time devoted to these activities, that's probably the best way to approach it. But as any teacher will tell you, no lesson plan ever goes quite as planned, and you have to be able to adapt to what's happening.
Okay.